Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of The Voice of Castle Law. This is your host, Gary Davidson. Today I have a longtime client of mine, Mike Fisher, with us. Mike owns a property management company, but before that, he was a real estate investor. And the one thing that Mike was struggling with, and he's going to describe this, is that he owns about 88 units. And one of the things that was being lost was just like a window being open. All of these dollars were flowing out the window because he was not doing a good job with his property management companies of managing that on the backside. As real estate investors, we're really good about setting up companies. We're really good about going out and finding properties. But we lose money when we're managing that property. And so today we have Mike Fisher on.
Whoop, whoop.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the invite.
So, Mike, you're up to 88 doors.
88, man. 88.
And how did you come about setting up MF Cash Flow Team? Now, that's the property management company licensed to do
The
business in
property
Illinois.
management company is actually Cambria Realty.
Okay.
I'm under that as a broker, and my team is MF Cash Flow Team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you've been servicing investors for some time now.
Yeah.
What was really the driving force behind you creating this property management company?
Whew. Well, I got into it because I had built my own portfolio up enough, and I said, well, I want to help other people build their portfolio. And as I'm building their portfolio, I'm like, well, somebody's got to manage them. I got to manage them myself, manage my own. So I might as well manage theirs. So, today we're nearly 350 doors.
350 doors. And, one of the things that I know you and I appreciate about each other is we have a why, right? When we wake up in the morning, what's our core value?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
helping
yeah.
People create that life worth living, that
Yeah,
legacy worth
yeah,
leaving,
yeah, yeah.
that business worth
Right,
owning.
right.
And so as investors, the need for property management, sometimes it's people are trying to save pennies. You go out and you try to fix your own toilet and it takes you 2 days versus hiring that out. And with property management, I see the same thing with your company because sometimes people aren't good at filling vacancies. They're failing inspections multiple times. They're failing to receive the rent on time. And every single day adds up to dollars.
Yeah.
And those days and days add up to a massive difference in terms of
Huge.
the return on investment. So what are the common mistakes people are making?
Well, if you're self-managing, that's a big mistake in itself because you don't know what it takes. You're not going to screen a tenant the way that we screen a tenant. You're not going to get when the vacancy happens, you're not going to get it refreshed as fast. And we've got a 24/7 maintenance hotline that when a tenant calls, we answer. There's somebody there to answer. So if you're not going to be there to answer those calls, handle the toilet flushings, do all the screening, to handle any maintenance, there's so much more to it all. But if you're not going to do it, then step aside because I'm telling you, when people say, well, Mike, how much do you charge? We charge a flat rate of $125 a door. Is $125 a door too much? Compared to all that we do for $125, it's ridiculous, right? And people say compared to a cup of coffee, right? Well, it depends on where you're going to get that cup of coffee from. But to have that peace of mind, you want to go on vacation, you want to have a quality life, and you want to maximize. One of my biggest things, Gary, is that I got to 28 doors and I had to start hiring people because I wanted to grow. So it was just like 3.5 years ago, I had 28 doors and I grew to 88 that fast. So, and that's because I had to put the right people in place, the right systems in place, and move forward to make that happen.
So when we're talking about, and I preach this to all of my clients and everybody that listens to these podcasts know, I mean, the key to successful business is to minimize risk and maximize return.
Yeah.
When you have a property management company, you're outsourcing that risk. You can have that life worth living. So many investors get into real estate because they want to have a passive income.
Yeah.
Yet they're more involved than ever. They're running 1,000,000 miles an hour in no particular direction.
Yeah.
They still have a full-time job, and at night they're managing their properties. That's not why we got involved in real estate investing.
Right.
We got involved to have passive income.
Right.
And I can tell you, we have people that will call us and they'll say, Gary, this person hasn't paid me for a month, and I just entered into an agreement with them that they're going to pay me at the end of the following month for rent. And that's now 60 days, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of that 60-day period, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to say, gee, we don't have the money. you're operating this and you're taking business principles and you're saying, hey, if the person doesn't pay rent, we're going to go out. We have our team serve the notice. We work with our lawyers. And it's all based on business, no emotional decisions. And you're tracking that every single day.
That's right. And we've got the right team in place, all the way from putting the tenant in place to the maintenance to every step of the way. I mean, if they decide they want to go through to the eviction, we've got you on board to handle every step of the way. So it's like we have everything that they need. They just plug into what we have. And it's like, it's just magic. It just works, right?
So let's talk about putting tenants in place. This is something that, again, it's those details, those small steps done habitually that add up to a massive difference, which is going to be the difference between you making money or losing money. And, tenant screening, it's not about, gee, Mike Fisher looks like a nice guy. I think he might pay rent. Because if we operate our business on the principle of hope, that's not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy.
No, it's not
Your strategies, you have
proven
tenant screening processes whereby we're going to determine whether they have good credit, whether they've had prior evictions, so that we can place good paying tenants in there. Right. Now, that's not to say that there's not going to be some people that slip through the cracks, right?
Well, and plus things change in people's lives too. I've often said, like, just because they, a tenant may lose their job, doesn't mean they're bad people. Just means they lost their job, right?
Right.
So, everybody goes through shit, and it's okay. But like, here, we're gonna go and have a talk with them. Like, hey, how much extra can you pay every month to get caught up? Because they don't want to have an eviction on their record. And they have an eviction on their record, then they're, where are they going to move? It's going to make it really difficult.
And I want people to think about this for a second. And I know that you believe in this, and I know it's part of your core value. Start to think about the numbers. Daily cost for real estate taxes, daily cost for insurance, daily cost for utilities. What's the cost to rehab that property if the tenant is destroying the property? You guys are going to be on top of these things, because if you as an investor have 5 units and you have vacancy for 6 months or 3 months or 2 months, start adding up the cost of that. It's tens of thousands of dollars. And the name of this game is cash flow.
That's right.
And so if we're not collecting rent, we are not cash flowing.
Not cash flowing, man. Negative cash flow, yeah.
So tell me just a little bit more about your process. Let's just say, you're renting to Gary Davidson, and Gary Davidson hasn't paid rent by the 5th of the month. What does your company do?
Well, we're going to reach out to them first, find out if they even pick up the phone. And then from there, they're going to get served a 5-day notice. From that 5-day notice, they have 5 days to pay their rent, or, we have that choice to move it forward to take it to the attorney and move from there. Then they're going to get served by the sheriff and go to court.
Okay, so you said a lot there, so let's break this down.
Yeah.
So people don't realize, and I want everybody to make sure that if you hear nothing else today, I want you to understand that a 5-day notice, all of these things are very specific. The Illinois eviction statute says if you don't use that very specific language, you don't serve that notice in a very specific way,
oh, that's huge,
that you'll lose in court.
If it's not filled out properly, it will get dismissed and you got to start all over. People say, well, Mike, you charge too much for property management, this and that. Like, come on, man. Like, $125 is a lot. You served that 5-day notice the wrong way, you just lost another. If rent's $1,500, you just lost another $1,500.
So, guys, 5-day notice has to be specific. Has to have specific language.
Yes.
You guys have all these forms. Our office has given you a lot of these forms. It has to be served in a specific way. You can't just send somebody an email. You can't leave them a voicemail.
Hand delivered.
Has to be hand delivered by somebody above the age of 13 who resides on the premises, or by posting and then sending it certified mail. But that doesn't work to get a money judgment.
Right.
So all of these things create a massive amount of peril. You as an investor don't have to worry about this, because when you hire a property management company, they have all these processes and protocols in place.
Right.
That allows you to create that life worth living, that legacy worth leaving, that business worth owning. Mike, anything else?
You know, Gary, the one thing I want to mention is that I think what separates us from other property management companies is our experience. When, for example, we talked about the cash flow, right? If it's vacant, you're not cash flowing. So going back to just the basics, maybe the person does have the simple, just 5 units, right? And maybe it's just one. But the reality is when that thing's sitting vacant, it's costing you money every single month. It's just not that monthly payment. It's everything that you said. But when we have a vacancy, we're going to be out there, and it's a Section 8 inspection. We're going to be out there with paintbrush in hand. We're going to have a GFI outlet in the other hand, batteries in our pocket for the smoke detectors, because they're checking all these things. One of those fail, you have to start the process all over again, and it could be another week. So if you're not prepared like we are, it could be, oh, you failed again, because most likely it's not going to be the same inspector going in there. And they're going to re-inspect the whole thing over and over until you pass. So again, if rent is $1,500 and you just have to do it 2 more times, that's $750 that you just lost. Take that over 5 properties. And that's just one example. Another quick one that we do that I don't think anybody else is doing. After a tenant moves out, we get in there within 3 days, clean out all the crap that they left behind. A lot of them will leave beds behind, whatever crap. We'll clean it all out, clean out the cabinets, mop the floors, clean off the countertops, get some photos in there, and start marketing this property. Why? Because as soon as we get this thing marketed, the sooner we get another tenant in place. While it's being marketed, we're getting you a quote on what it's going to cost to refresh this home and get this thing rent ready, so that when that Section 8 tenant does come, boom, we're going to pass that inspection. People are on every one of our inspections, Gary.
That's
and
awesome.
That's huge. When you take that time frame, right, you got to shrink that time frame. Within 3 days, it's cleaned out, and we start showing it right away. So we're not waiting for the paint to dry. That could be 30 days in itself, right, depending on who you're with. So you just lost 30 days. We're putting it on the market within 3 to 5 days.
That's great. You know, what I love about working with you, Mike, is you got that passion, that deep down inside your core passion. You know, and you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. This comes from experience of you being an owner of properties. You've made all the mistakes, so now you can take those mistakes and you can help your clients avoid those mistakes.
Right.
Because you've been in their shoes when a tenant has trashed a property. You've been in their shoes when a tenant hasn't paid. So I really appreciate you coming on. For those of you who have rental properties, if you want that life worth living, if you want that business worth owning, and if you want that legacy worth leaving,
Woo! Gary Davidson's in the house!
Mike Fisher. And you need to give him a call right below, Mike Fisher with Get Cash Flow, and we will be back next time. This is the voice of Castle Law. I am your host, Gary Davidson.